thoughts on your ability, if you were mayor, to bring the two large governing organizations together?
Well, that's actually one of my major pieces of my platform. The third thing I'm running on is to bring in and unite city council and county commissioners for the first time ever. Historically, we haven't really had a lot of cooperation between those two entities, and that's one of my expertise. I mean, I wrote a book called Collaboration Economy, and it's based on how to turn your competition into your allies. And I want to use a lot of those same strategies to get city council and county commissioners to work together. I'm more than happy to work with city council and discuss a TIF, maybe even a CRA as well. I mean, the reality is I think the best people who are responsible for spending money in their neighborhood are the people who have a vested interest in that neighborhood. They know far better where the money needs to go. So I'm definitely open to that. I also don't want to overlook the power of private-public partnerships as well. I think, you know, we have an opportunity to make some fast, rapid growth with the IP district, and typically a TIF or even a CRA is going to take a little longer for us to see changes, where if we did a private-public partnership, I think we'd see a lot more rapid change, a lot more effectively. So I want to look into that as well. I want to, let's use the heart and the spirit of innovation to find unique, creative ways to raise funds to get change done.
So looking up at the university area, we have a lot of issues that we need to address. Transportation, obviously.
Number one problem.
So what do you think about transportation? I mean, you know, we have 80,000 people who live in the university area.
Yep.
Approximately 50,000 people who work in that area. And then when you start looking at all the people who just come in on a daily basis, going to the university, going to the VA hospital, cancer, visiting Busch Gardens, they average anywhere from 10 to 15,000 trips a day. What type of transit and transportation should we be looking at for that area? What are your thoughts? I mean, it's a broad question on transportation, but it's very important to the university area,
Sure.
which is, you know, just about 8 miles to the north of downtown and maybe a 40-minute ride to the airport. We'd like for it to be a shorter ride if we could get that. But if we can connect those points quicker and enhance mobility in the university area, we think we can unleash a lot of potential.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts on that?
And it's another one of my major platforms is that we have to solve transit. And I'll tell you, every mayoral candidate is going to tell you, you're going to hear the term multimodal solutions thrown around like pigeon feed. But rarely will anybody stick their neck out and tell you what modes they're committed to doing. And I think you can put me down for all those traditional ones like bus rapid transit, autonomous vehicles, bike share, carpool. I'm into those things as well, but I want to introduce a couple of new ones as well. The biggest one, of course, being urban aerial gondolas. Ski lifts. There's nothing that says a ski lift has to take you up a mountain. It can take you over a freeway, it can take you over a river, and it can take you to a hospital just as easily. And while that doesn't seem very common here in America, there's only 2 urban aerial gondolas in America, one in New York and one in Portland, Oregon. They are springing up all over the world, and I think we need to look at other cities that are playing the game of innovation and say, what are they doing differently? And I will tell you that if you look at it from a cost per mile, it's the cheapest form of mass transit you can build. It's about $3 to $12 million a mile. You can't even build a road for that for the most part. And it's the safest mode of mass transit. If we're committed to Vision Zero and having 0 fatalities, there's never been a pedestrian ever hit by an urban aerial gondola. Right? It's just not going to happen. In fact, the mortality rate for urban aerial gondolas is 1 in 900 million. You can't beat that average. It's the safest form of mass transit. It's also the most efficient. You can average wait time 3 to 7 minutes. Transportation capacity 50 times greater than a bus. So when it's more efficient, it's faster, it's safer, and it's more affordable, we need to take a serious look at that. And it also starts to celebrate our beautiful views that we have as well. And we already own all the right-of-ways.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up. I know that the previous Secretary of Transportation for District 7, Paul Stein, had introduced me to a group, I think they were calling themselves Sky Pilots.
I've heard of them, yeah.
And there's a group that actually, out of Beach Train, out of Clearwater, that's trying to introduce that there. I've met with them. There's a group of former military MIT folks, I think, that are in Israel looking at that technology. They say it's about 10 million a mile. Mm-hmm. So let's look at this. So we have a number of anchor institutions which sit within a half mile of each other. Mm-hmm. The challenge is They're bifurcated by these large, dangerous road networks. So Fowler Avenue and Fletcher and Bush, but then 30th Street, McKinley. We are always talking about ways to get people over.
Yes.
A bridge that you could build, a sky bridge, which we have several of them, are expensive. And people don't really like to use them. We have one that connects Mosey to USF. I don't know how many people use it other than the ROTC kids that run in the morning, across. So would you envision, whether it's a gondola or other
sky pod,
because the sky pods go right into your building. They go right into your hotel.
Yeah. Well, you can do that with urban gondolas as well. Singapore retrofitted one of their high rises to take gondolas straight into
Really?
buildings as well. Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah. So you can do it. The question is, do you have the funding and do you have the desire to make it happen?
Do you get, I mean, so, we have your stereotypical traditional TOD that goes around rail. What would this encourage that type of economic development? Some of the criticisms of rail is, well, you're not even doing it to move people, you're doing it for the economic value of how the land will profit. Exactly. So what does this do? Does this give you either, both?
You probably want to think of it similar to like bus rapid transit, where you've got drop off and stop offs, and from there on you're just going as fast as you possibly can with it. So it does encourage walkability, no less or no more than a bus rapid transit system would. But what's great is that they're much faster to build and they're much safer to use. And if you do it right, those landing pods can actually become economic development centers as well, because you can put those things that people need to use on a day-to-day basis, from dry cleaners to pharmacies to drugstores. I mean, all those types of things go into those things as well. So you don't want to just make it a landing pod. You want to make it a community activity center where people are at. Local restaurants, sandwich shops, those type of things go real well in those things.
And we have a circulator.
Yep, and by the way, I think it would be the perfect complement to your circulator, because the biggest challenge you'll have with the circulator is if you have to drive a car to get to it, then what motivation do you have to get rid of your car to get on the circulator, right? Most Americans with their love of cars aren't going to sit there and go, well, wait a minute, why would I park my car now and get on the circulator? What I think we need to do is ask ourselves, and this is an ambitious goal, and it's one that we'll never achieve fully, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't go for it. Here's the ambitious goal. How do we get people to the IB district without a car? And if you set that as the goal, right, and you say, let's design this in a way where there's no need to even have a car to get to the district.
Right.
Now you've got a reason to use the circulator to get there. So whether it be BRT or urban gondola, to get you from downtown over to the IP district, drops off right where there's a spot for the circulator. Now you've made seamless connections, and that's how it works really well.
It seems to me that would be Jeff Finnick's mission as well. I'm certain he's thinking, how can I build this Water Street district and not have to have the cars come in? I've heard him say that.
Yeah.
We talk about, we've got 43,000 kids that go to school up at USF. He'd love to have them able to come downtown, but not bring their cars. So that's something we're also going to be looking at, which is the connection within these districts, but then the connection between the districts.
Yeah. The other thing, by the way, and I'm a huge fan of Josh Frank's bifurcation to boulevard plan. I think that needs some serious attention. We need to look into that. The notion of building a freeway to transfer 30% of the people who are on that freeway, is 70% of all traffic from, I believe, Bears Avenue all the way into downtown is just that. It's from Bears to downtown. So we built this multi-billion-dollar monolithic thing which has created urban blight, and it's ugly.
We're talking about the interstate?
The interstate, yeah.
But we're not talking about taking the interstate down, or are you talking about taking the interstate down?
Yeah, take down 275 from Bears all the way into downtown. I know that sounds crazy, but here's the thing. See, a lot of people, anytime how you feel about something goes in conflict with fact or truth, resistance is natural. And so our feeling is the fastest way is to drive. Our feeling is the fastest way is a freeway. But the facts show otherwise. If you look at the numbers that Josh has run, we could actually get faster transport with cars from Bears Avenue down to downtown by a boulevard. And it would increase the economic activity. It would remove the urban blight. I see very little downside, a lot of upside. I think that needs to get some serious attention. And we need to have politicians who have the political courage to take big chances like that.
We'll be having that conversation. Housing, workforce housing. Big issue for us. We have a lot of people who live in the university area who don't own, they rent, which therefore we have the old name Suitcase City, which is not being used anymore. I hate even using it now.
Yep.
but we want to encourage people to own their own homes.
Yes.
Any thoughts?
Yeah, you know what, here's the interesting thing. Workforce housing is the new term for affordable housing. And you know what, I have my impression of that is that I'm not even a fan of that, and here's why. No kid, when they're a child, sets a goal in life to one day be able to get into affordable housing. Right? That's not an inspiration that people have in life. People have a goal in life that they want to be able to live wherever they want to live and enjoy that life. So rather than try to make the housing affordable, I'd rather make the jobs profitable to where they can afford to live wherever they want. Now, there's an equal balance, much like, well, let's set a goal to not have to have a car into the IP district. We'll never get there, but that should be the design. If we focus on this notion of, let's find a way to make sure that every person can have a quality of life with one job, not two or three. Then if we do that, then affordable housing is not as big an issue because they can afford to live wherever they want. But workforce housing is a great idea, and we need to have things like that. But here's the term I like more: inspired living. Let's find a way to label that in a way where people would want to live there. And I'll give you an example. It's not even affordable housing, but if you look at like what Metropolitan Ministries has done for the people in need, the indigent coming out and trying to get their lives back in order. If you go to Metropolitan Ministries and you look at that little compound that they've created, for lack of a better word, a child that's growing up in there doesn't realize that they're living in an affordable housing area. It's beautiful, it's gorgeous, and the problem I have when we start looking at workforce housing or affordable housing is we go, how do we make it the cheapest, ugliest, functional thing out there? And I really think that all humans deserve dignity, especially those who are working really hard to get their lives back in order, especially those who are just out of university trying to get that first job. Let's give them some dignity so they can have that pride.
You talked about Josh Franks, and I think he's a brilliant young man. I love his concept. I would like to see, though, rather than us warring with FDOT, us taking that concept and taking it maybe to Fowler Avenue, where you have a corridor from 275 to 75 that introduces everyone who enters into the innovation corridor. So development along the corridor. We're looking and very interested in an overlay district of some sort.
I'm a fan of overlay districts.
So we'd like to talk about the overlay district. And there are what, 8 lanes on Fowler. So if we could take, let's say, 2, turn them into autonomous lanes. Take the center, turn it into that beautiful tree-lined boulevard, making it safe for people who walk as a midpoint for people who walk across the street, because there's no safety right now in walking. It's just ugly and scary.
It's too big of a distance to cross.
So what are your thoughts? Because we want to make Fowler the gateway into what is one of the top research universities in the nation and the busiest VA hospital in the country, and one of the top, the only NCI designated cancer institute, and they're all sitting right there, but you have to drive through that to get there. And we also think that by enhancing it, we might encourage those jobs you just talked about that will create high-wage jobs for the people who live in the community along Fowler, maybe replacing some of the jobs that are sitting there now, which are more low-wage.
I'll answer with a bit of a rhetorical question. Which life is more valuable? The one walking, the one biking, or the one in a car? The answer is very clear. They are all equally valuable. And so we have to shed this notion that roads are designed for cars. Roads are designed to transport human life, right? And then that transportation could be multiple modes, whether it's autonomous vehicles, piloted vehicles, a bicycle, a scooter, or my favorite one, walking. It actually works pretty well. It's the one we've been doing the longest.
But let me ask you this, because the walking. This morning, I left my place at Hyde Park. Had a meeting here at the Oxford Exchange. It was a 1.4 mile walk.
Right.
Not too tough.
No.
Except that when I got here, I was pretty sweaty. It was 9 o'clock in the morning. I thought maybe I'd catch a bus. My bus was going to be running late, so I just made the full walk.
Sure.
What is it about Tampa that we could do? I've been thinking about misters. I've been thinking about covered space along the corridor. What could we do that would enable us to make walking?
That's okay.
So what can we do to enhance walking?
This is where I geek out a little bit. So you pull this top and I just keep spinning, so you may have to cut me off on this one. But this is smart urban development. There are things that we can do. We need to have more green space. The more trees we have, the cooler the temperature becomes, the more shade you have. We also have to, in our overlay district, we need to put some certain codes to where when you're building a building, you have to factor that into place and you have to build it. Oddly enough, one of the most innovative buildings downtown is one of the oldest. It's the Madison building.
Okay.
It was designed with a 12, 14-foot overhang on the sidewalks. It is a wonderful place to walk because there's shade pretty much 24/7. Well, during the day, 24/7, not guess you have shade there anyway. But we need to design them more intelligently to where we have natural shade. We also have man-made shade in terms of whether it be through structuring the buildings to where they have overhangs, to where they have awnings. Those awnings could have misters built into them as well. The big thing that you'll hear people push back on is, well, it's too hot of a city to be a walkable city. The reality is, temperature rarely impacts walkabilities in cities. The most walkable city in North America, by the way, is Toronto, Canada. Well, there's a city that's freezing 9 months out of the, well, I'm probably exaggerating with 9, but a good 6 months out of the year, it's pretty dang cold in Toronto, Canada, and that's the most walkable city in North America. Well, hot or cold, you've got to make it enjoyable. It's about the personal experience, and here's the thing. I was talking to a gentleman this morning, he said, you know, a half-mile walk in downtown Tampa through blight and ugly space feels like a 5-mile walk. Because if it's designed poorly, a short path feels like a long path. Just the same, if it's designed intelligently, a long path feels like a short path. And there has to be intermittent areas where you've got complete shade, but you also get your sun, and there's going to be stimulation. It's not just about temperature, it's about mental stimulation to make sure that it's an enjoyable walk along the way as well.
That's a great answer, because I think that what we found is with all the people we have who are locked into their buildings up in the university area, because we don't have the proper sidewalks, we don't have the tree shade that you have like on the campus of USF.
Yeah.
They took what was once the lunar landscape when you used to walk across that campus 30 years ago, and turned it into something that's quite pleasurable. Fountains and trees.
People magically start showing up in a walk.
They show up in a walk.
Listen, if you think temperature is a factor, then why does New York in the middle of summer have thousands of people in Times Central, in Times Square? Because they've designed it and they've made it friendly.
And I was there this summer to see that.
Yeah.
So can you help us make, I mean, and what I'm going to do is ask you one last question, then I'm going to give you an opportunity to just make a closing statement, which we'd like to run as well. Why you think you'd be the right mayor for our area, but also all of the city of Tampa.
Yeah.
The organization was created because there was a sense that we were not achieving the maximum potential of all that was sitting there. There was something missing. Great institutions next to each other, lots of people living in the area, students coming in, yet it wasn't the place that people would say when they would say, well, where do we want to put your company? It would be, well, you know, other parts of Hillsborough County or Tampa Bay, but not the university area, which also, if you look to the north, is within 6-7 miles of southern Pasco County, and 300,000 people who are all pouring in, but with nothing to do. I think Tampa could benefit from having them come in, create jobs and such. So your thoughts about making that area, not that it becomes more important than any other area, we want to work with our downtown West Shore, but making it a really relevant player within the economic, you know, realm of Tampa Bay.
When you say not more important, I get that, and that's good that you see that, but we also need to realize that there are certain areas that have a certain higher value to us as a city. And the IP district is one of them, because for many people, that's their first exposure to Tampa. They get it from the airport and they either get in an Uber or they get in a cab or they rent a car and they get on the freeway and their first exit is maybe Bush Boulevard, right? And I think we need to make sure that the first impression that people have when they come to this city is a very positive one. Right now, if you look at that whole area, I think we need to focus on beautifying that entire area, making it walkable, making it bikeable, making it safe, but making it something that you don't want to just drive through, but you want to drive in. and live in and be in. So those type of gateways are very powerful. They create an impression. We have, what, 700,000 people moving here, and then by 2025 or something like that, I forget what the exact number is. So while I get that it may or may not be more important, but there might be a higher level of priority with regard to making sure that we have these key areas. And by the way, that's not just the only one. Downtown as well. When people get off at 275 coming right into downtown, and they see these landowners that are land banking these buildings, and it's just, I mean, we've got the Meridian, which is a beautiful 5-star hotel, and right next door is this blighted warehouse building. It's gross. We have to fix those as well. And IP District has that ability. We need to realize the value of that and what that has for us.
Well, then what I'll ask is when you're elected mayor.
One last thing about that. It's the Innovation District, right? The Innovation Place.
Yes.
And one thing
Innovation Partnership, yes.
Well, yeah, and the one thing that I love about this, that I hear people do this all the time. They say the word innovation, but all they do is talk about technology. And in my opinion, if somebody's talking about technology while saying innovation, they don't really understand what innovation is all about, right? Innovation is about making something better. If you look at like an iPhone, I'm a big fan of iPhone, but are they innovative? Probably not since like the iPhone 4. Maybe you could argue the new X is more innovative, but it's new technology. It's prettier, it's more expensive, but it's not more innovative. Right? Urban gondolas, those things aren't technological. They've been around for years, 40, 50 years longer, right? But using them in an innovative way makes that innovative. And I think this is where, as the Innovation Place realizes that it's not about making it a tech hub, it's making it an innovation hub. It's about making living, working, playing better.
So we won't ask for your first state of the city, although that would be quite a statement if you'd make that in the Innovation District.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, they tend to all be downtown, which is fine.
Yeah.
But we'd want you to consider having a State of the City address.
You don't even have to ask. One of the things I'm committed to doing if I'm blessed to become this mayor is giving equal attention to our east, our west, and our north, not just the south. I love Julian B. Lane Park. I love Curtis Dixon Park. I live in downtown, so I get to enjoy them a lot. But we have a lot more beautiful places in Tampa than just those two spaces. I want to make sure that as the mayor, I'm representing all areas, and I've already stated, and I've committed to East Tampa, that if I'm blessed to win, our inauguration party is happening in a park in East Tampa, not in downtown. Think about how fast those parks would get their bathrooms fixed. How those, right? If all of a sudden we had 50,000 people coming in there, you know, all of a sudden the city find a way to actually come up with some funding for these people.
Mayor Baker did things like that.
Yeah, but that's what we have to do. So I not only will commit to you that we can do things like that, it may not be the first state of the city, right? But we will actually do that. I've already committed that as the mayor, I want to live one year in each sector. So I want to be East Tampa for a year, North Tampa for a year, West Tampa, and then South. And I don't even need to live in South. I've been there for 18 years, so I don't even need to really live there. I could split up between those three. Well, listen, I'd rather make it for all of Tampa, right? Because 98% of Tampa's economy is because of small business owners. I want to be the small business mayor. Right now, I think our city spends far too much time, energy, and effort trying to recruit big business to the city. And I think we need to start spending our time, energy, and focus trying to build the next big business. And by the way, most people talk about attracting big business. What they're really saying is recruiting big business. Recruiting, when you recruit, you have to roll over and give them everything. And what happens is when we're trying to recruit these Fortune 500 companies here, two things happen. Number one, we roll over, we give them every type of tax benefit possible, which doesn't benefit necessarily the city, it does from a job placement, but who bears that burden? The hardworking small business owners that don't get tax breaks. I'd rather spend our energy building up our small businesses. Listen, we could recruit one big company to hire 1,000 people, or we could actually empower our small business owners, 1,000 of them, to hire one person. Now that's more economic strength, that's strong, and we need to prepare for this economic bubble will eventually pop. Bubbles pop, if we have diversified our labor force into 1,000 small business owners, that's gonna be way better than one big business with 1,000. And I'm using that as a hypothetical number, it could be far greater than that. And I also think the second thing that it does, by focusing all of our efforts on trying to recruit big Fortune 500 companies to Tampa instead of growing the next Fortune 500 company, I think it speaks poorly of our faith in small business owners. Well, I'm a small business owner, and I have faith that the next Fortune 500 company doesn't have to move here. We can build it here. I think we have a lot of them that already have the potential to get there. Let's give them a little bit of love and energy. And let's take these small startups and let's give them the resources that they need to grow. We do that, we're going to have a far better city. We start to innovate and think of new, creative, out-of-the-box ways. Here's the thing. We have more momentum than we've ever had in probably 30 years. And when you have momentum, if you take your foot off the gas, you go to the back of the line. And I think we've worked far too hard to go to the back of the line again. But when you have momentum, you put that pedal down just a little bit further, you can scream to the front. It's Tampa's time to scream to the front of the line. But you don't do it by timid leadership. You do it by bold, courageous leadership. And that's what we need in our office. We need somebody who can set a tone of inclusion, set a tone of innovation, set a tone of small business support, and I'm your guy. I can do that for you.